Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories this hour. Senate to interrogate security chiefs following U.S. Congressman's accusations of USAID funding Boko Haram. An Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, condemns governors for illegal council takeovers. Also coming up, Niger Republic rejects ECOWAS passport, bars Nigerians from entry. Details coming up shortly. Welcome. Our News Central now at this hour begins at the Parliament with security matters, where we understand that the Nigerian Senate is set to invite top security officials over allegations by a U.S. Congressman, Scott Perry, that the United States Agency for International Development was funding Boko Haram. Lawmakers have raised concerns about reports suggesting that terrorist groups may be receiving financial aid through international channels. Those expected to appear before the Senate includes the National Security Advisor, the Department of State Service, and other security agencies. The investigation aims to assess potential security risks and safeguard Nigeria's sovereignty from foreign interference. Meanwhile, USAID has yet to respond to the allegations, but maintains that its funding is strictly for humanitarian aid and development projects. Now, away from that, Nigeria's Senate has amended the 2025 appropriation bill, which was recently passed by both chambers of the National Assembly after identifying and correcting errors observed in the bill. Now, this was after the chairman of the Senate had brought to the notice of the lawmakers several errors identified in the bill. Our National Assembly correspondent Sagir Ibrahim tells us more.
Committee Chairman Adiola Olamilekon presented a motion highlighting the necessary corrections expected to be made to the bill. The primary adjustment involved changes to the recurrent non-debt expenditure, which has been increased to 13.58 trillion naira, while capital expenditure was reduced to 23.43 trillion naira.
Recall that the 2025 appropriation bill was passed by the Nigerian Senate and the House of Representatives on Tuesday, the 13th February 2025. The Senate observed that at the point of cleaning and realigning, the Joint Committee on Appropriation discovered some inadvertent errors in the underlisted lines item passed by the Nigerian Senate and the House of Representatives.
The Joint Committee on Appropriations has since incorporated these amendments into the bill, which was recommitted to the Committee of Supply before receiving final approval. Despite the adjustment, the total budget size remains unchanged at 54.99 trillion naira, including 3.64 trillion naira for statutory transfers and 14.31 trillion naira for debt servicing.
And members of the Appropriation Committee for detecting these typographical errors and bringing them on time for us to receive and represent to Mr. President for assent, because it would have taken a longer procedure for amendment if this had already been transmitted to Mr. President for assent. So I commend you for the transparency.
With the corrections finalized, the amended bill is now set to be transmitted to President Bola Tinubu for assent. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
Take a short break now. When we get back, more news, especially from the Edo State, as they toughen against kidnapping laws. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, artificial intelligence is revolutionizing industries worldwide. Among the most significant advancements is AI in generative AI, which includes large language models like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, DeepSeek, Perplexity, and many more. Now, these powerful tools are reshaping business environments and financial markets by automating processes, improving efficiency, and enabling data-driven decision-making. But then, what is the adoption rate in Nigeria, and how well can it solve business-related challenges? Well, News Central's correspondent Leka Onabanjo tells us more in this report.
evolving global business and socio-economic landscape, generative AI or AI-powered chatbots are said to be providing cutting-edge solutions, driving innovation and enhancing productivity.
It's been very good. The fact that we have AI systems that can solve problems that will naturally take you many days to solve. You can just ask an AI and it will give you a response immediately.
In my personal experience, I've had it in healthcare, in agriculture, in food security, just different fields, right? Even in finance, you have people having using predictive algorithms, predictive AI algorithms to predict financial trends.
Covering several spheres of human endeavor, AI tools are said to be fascinating, flexible, and efficient in providing assistance. But then, how well do Nigerians know and use this technology?
As a student, a lot of us use AI. I'm talking about ChatGPT and other offshoot of it. It's very adopted. But I also answer from the perspective of like a market woman, for example. I don't think I've heard any market woman, since all my journeys into the market, I don't think I've heard any market woman mention AI. So I feel like it's still a bubble, and the average Nigerian person doesn't know much about AI.
Interestingly, as good as generative AI is, there are still challenges.
Certain tools that are not available to the market woman, certain financial services like transferring money. Many Nigerians, and if you look at it, if you go to the rural areas, they can't interact with financial applications. We need to really educate teachers and principals on, AI and what's possible with this model, so they can kind of pass on those knowledge to students.
As opposed to the more developed countries, developing countries and third world countries like Nigeria, we're not up there yet in terms of availability of data, so that in turn affects AI and machine learning.
For a country largely dominated by the informal market, one wonders if AI tools can be domesticated.
In terms of a market woman, basically, I think where they can find AI is probably managing their income. Maybe they could get some of their data around what they sell, put it into an AI system, and the AI can generate ideas that could improve their business. The AI can also analyze their income.
We could build financial system that allows humans in Nigeria who normally won't be able to use them to just go ahead and tell a model that, okay, I want to transfer money to my son, and it will figure it out for them because it's an intelligent system.
Though AI alone cannot solve all issues, its impact is undeniable, as it has the potential to position Nigeria as a leading digital economy globally if properly harnessed and developed. In Lagos for News Central, Lekan Onobanjo.
Away from that now, the Edo State House of Assembly has passed a bill amending the kidnapping prohibition law, imposing death penalty on convicted kidnappers. The bill also mandates the confiscation and demolition of properties used to facilitate kidnapping. Majority Leader Charity Aigo Baruya highlighted the rising cases of abductions and the need for harsher penalties to curb the crime. Other lawmakers backed the legislation, arguing that the death penalty would serve as a strong deterrent and deliver justice to victims. In a related development, the Assembly has repealed the Edo State Electricity Law of 2022 to pave the way for a more robust energy framework. The new law establishes the Edo State Electricity Market, the Edo State Electricity Regulatory Commission, the Edo State Electrification Agency, and the Edo State Electricity Transmission Company, among others, reforms aimed at improving power supply in the state. Now to discuss this, we are joined by Ogechi Ogu, Executive Director, Founder, Public Awareness on Rights and Rehabilitation of Vulnerable Persons Initiative. You're welcome, Mrs. Ogu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. So let's get started by asking You're welcome. Apologies. Let's get started by asking what impact do you think the death penalty will have on kidnapping in Edo State? Let's start there.
Okay, thank you so much. We've always had this discussion around the death penalty, and I am really getting tired of, having this discussion, because it seems as if we are seeing it that the death penalty will be the all solution to the problem. And we are forgetting the fact that in the past about 20 years or more now, that all the persons, almost everybody that has been sentenced to death are still they've not yet been executed, and we are thinking of that serving as deterrence. I don't know whether we actually understand the message this is passing. You know, they are not yet, and that is not to say that I'm suggesting that the death penalty is the best option, you know, out of this challenge. We are looking at a country where the system, you know, that the criminal justice system is still struggling. The issues of justice are equally on the front burner regarding how people are processed within the system. How are we sure that the persons that have been condemned actually may have committed the offense? I know the sentiments we have now, considering the horrendous things happening around kidnapping. But my own thought around this is that we should sit back, look at the problem holistically, seek other solutions, have a system that is functional. Because if you take statistics now, statistics across the federation, you may realize that the number of persons that have been, sentenced to, or rather convicted of kidnapping, may not reflect the, the epidemic we have around this. So it's not only talking about the sentencing, the judgment, convicting people and saying you must die by hanging on the other. The point is, are we looking at the system that will bring them to the point where this will happen? Especially now, we know the challenges around delays in trial and the rest of them. So I think there are other creative ways of looking at this challenge and focusing on existing laws we have in the country, especially the Nigerian Correctional Service Act, Section 2, Sub 1A, what it talks about compliance with human rights standards, and good correctional practices. I don't think, if you look at the last Edo law on that, or the existing Edo law on kidnapping, is that of 2013. Mm-hmm. I don't really know what the punishment is.
Okay, Mrs. Ogu. Mrs. Ogu, just to summarize what you've just said, you in the beginning you told that people who might have been sentenced are still alive even up until now, even if they were sentenced to death penalty. Mm-hmm. You also mentioned the fact that there might be errors when it comes to sentencing. Now, with that in mind, what are the possible legal and human rights concerns surrounding the amendment to the kidnapping prohibition law?
Okay, I couldn't get that.
I asked if there are human violations rights or maybe concerns surrounding this prohibition law, that is this kidnapping prohibition law.
Of course, internationally, the movement is towards moratorium against death penalty, because death penalty is conceived, to constitute even torture, and the finality of it. I've mentioned this. When the system that produces that kind of judgment is not trusted, that you can't even be sure about the justice of the matter. You remember what Lord Denning said about 9 persons going free instead of one innocent person going to pay, the ultimate price in this circumstance. So what I am saying, in effect, is that I am not in support of death penalty. That is the major point I'm trying to make, because fundamentally it is against the human rights provision on rights to life. And that because I equally know that there are other ways of responding to the challenge, looking at the roots of the problems and addressing that without just treating the symptoms.
Okay, then. To the other matter of power in Edo State, do you foresee any changes, or rather challenges, in implementing both the stricter... I'm sorry, do we still have you there?
They foresee any problem in what?
Yes, I was asking, do you foresee any challenges in implementing both the stricter kidnapping law and also the electricity reform laws?
Of course, there will be... There's an existing challenge, because already it's not about sentencing one to death. at the end of the day, the expectation is that somebody that has been sentenced to death needs to be executed. It's not happening already. And we have a provision of the law. We are taking steps. I think this provision is like taking us back because there's, positive steps that has been taken in the Correctional Service Act, which speaks about 10 years after which somebody has been sentenced and has exhausted all the appeals. Such a person, the death sentence can be commuted to life. I think the Edo State legislature should be thinking towards life sentence, in this circumstance, and not the death penalty. And the major problem is how many people are caught, actually. And when they are caught, how many have been processed to the point of conviction? This is what we should be looking at, not, and what is the process? Was there torture involved along the line and other human rights infringements? So I think we should look better at our system and find different ways of dealing with these matters, looking at the angle of rehabilitation and other things. Okay. We can't continue this way. Yes.
And what is your take on the electricity reforms? Do you think this is going to bring better power to the people of Edo State?
Yeah, the electricity reform is a step in the right direction. I think it is expected that by May this year, all the states must have keyed into this. I think those states that have taken this initiative by having their own electricity regulatory commissioner are on the right step, because this is about their people. Electricity is about the progress and development of any environment. So that is the easiest any state can offer, the simplest thing any state can offer its citizens. So, and the only thing we know is that it is cost intensive, and maybe that's why some states are shying away from that. So those states has really taken a bold step, thinking of its own electricity market. The only thing we expect is that these states equally will consider investment in this area so that they take off in a very solid way, not just like the issues we have currently where infrastructure, maintenance, and the rest of them are still challenges till date.
All right. Well, Mrs. Ogun, I want to say thank you very much for giving us your afternoon and lending your voice on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now moving on. Still in Edo State, State Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Emperor Tenebe, has described Governor Monday Okpebholo's achievements in his first 100 days in office as bold steps towards ensuring prosperity for the state. In a statement issued in Benin, Tenebe said the governor has shown a strong commitment to making Edo a leading state in the country. He expressed confidence that the administration will continue to make meaningful impacts in the months and years ahead, ensuring shared prosperity for all. Tenebe added that in just 100 days, the Okpebholo-led government has restored hope and reassurance to the people. Got a short break now. When we get back, more news coming your way. Welcome back. The Oyo State Council of the Nigeria Labour Congress has warned the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company against any form of discrimination or harassment of employees recently laid off. NLC Chairman Kayode Martins issued a warning in Ibadan during a peaceful protest at IBEDC's corporate headquarters on Ring Road. He pledged not to back down until the company implements the new minimum wage for its workers, warning of severe consequences if demands are not met. The aggrieved electricity workers are also calling for the regularization of outsourced staff and access to affordable, quality health care, among other demands.
Showing up our grievances for years, though we didn't come out in mass like this. We were doing it peacefully, but they decided not to listen to us. So I've been working here for 8 years, and the same salary I've been taking since 8 years ago is still the one I'm still taking presently, considering the present situation of the economy. So we came out to show our grievances. We came out to show to show what we are going through in a peaceful manner.
Without power, there is no light. That's why we are there. We are working tirelessly from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the evening. For the 31 days, we are collecting 50,000 naira. And I'm telling you vividly, the same position that I occupy, the same IBDC that I occupy, that the same position, they are collecting 294,000 naira. Why we are being paid 50,000 naira? You can see the margin, you can see the difference. That is, they are just enslaved us. They are enslaved us. Please come to our aid, Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The sovereign is too much. State government, we heard Governor Monday, His Excellency. Come to our aid. Please help us. We also have family. Even as I'm talking to you, they transfer me from down to Ibadan here. You could see the transport fare from Osun to Ibadan, from Ibadan to Osun. At least I will go to see my family out of that 50,000 naira. Please, they should come to our aid.
We are appealing to the state government and all the stakeholders. Please call IBDC and PPI into order. They are still paying people 41,000 naira today when the law says you must not, the minimum wage as indicated in the law means this is the least you must pay to your least worker. It's not that you must pay 70,000 naira. The least employer in Nigeria today, the law says must not earn nothing less than 70,000 naira. And we have people working day and night here, placed on 41,000, 42,000 naira. And in the same place, we have people earning as high as 600,000 naira. And it is these same people earning much, millions. It is these same people that is now tumbling with the 120, the stipend amounts. They heat up everything. Even the guy, they are taking it up. It's not done. So we are appealing to the citizen and everybody, please come to our rescue. We don't have power. This is the only thing we can do. That's why we are here.
The Osun State House of Assembly has condemned the forceful takeover of local government secretariats by members of the All Progressives Congress, calling it illegal and a threat to democracy. Speaker Adewale Igbedu, in a press conference, described the invasion as lawless and criticized security agencies for failing to act. The Assembly reaffirmed a court ruling that nullified the 2022 local government elections and called on the Inspector General of Police to restore order. Governor Ademola Adeleke has directed all parties to stay away from council offices, while the Assembly urged President Bola Tinubu to intervene to prevent further chaos in the state. Now, let's also tell you that the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission has dismissed reports that military personnel sealed off its premises in Oshogbo. OSSIEC Information Officer Sadiat Isiaka, in a statement, described the claims circulating on social media as false and misleading. The Commission reassured the public that the local government election scheduled for Saturday will proceed as planned and urged residents not to be discouraged by misinformation. It also confirmed that its premises remain secure, with inter-agency security personnel ensuring order. Meanwhile, the Osun State Police Command has launched a manhunt for those responsible for violent clashes that erupted across the state on Monday, leaving several people dead. Police spokesperson Yemisi Okpebholo, in a statement on Tuesday, said Commissioner of Police Mohammed Abba has ordered a thorough investigation to bring the perpetrators to justice. Authorities have urged residents to remain calm as security forces work to restore order. The violence broke out when APC members attempted to enforce a court of appeal ruling in Akure, which overturned their sack by the Oshogbo Federal High Court in November 2022. However, they were met with fierce resistance from PDP supporters who had mobilized in large numbers at local government secretariats. The Osun State House of Assembly has condemned the forceful takeover of local government secretariats by members of the All Progressives Congress, calling it illegal and a threat to democracy. Speaker Adewale Igbedu, in a press conference, described the invasion as lawless and criticized security agencies for failing to act. But we've told you that before. Now, two suspects linked to the murder of Justice Azuka, a member of the Anambra House of Assembly, have reportedly escaped from prison from police custody. Anambra State Police Command spokesman Tochukwu Ikenga confirmed the escape in a statement on Tuesday. According to Ikenga, the suspects were taken out for an investigation to track down a received to track down a receiver of vehicles used by their criminal gang and managed to escape. Commissioner of Police Ikioye Orutugu has deployed human, operational, and intelligence assets to rearrest them. He has also ordered immediate disciplinary action against officers found culpable in the suspect's escape. We'll now go back to our previous story on the Osun State issue with the secretaries. Now to discuss this, we are joined by public affairs analyst Jide Ojo. Jide Ojo, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us once again here this afternoon here on News Central.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon.
As always. So, Jide, what legal standings do both the APC and the PDP have in the dispute over local government control in Osun State?
Well, I think this will have to be settled by the Supreme Court, given the fact that both camps are laying claim to different interpretation of the Court of Appeal ruling in Akure. And I think I wish the Attorney General and Minister of Justice could wade in and perhaps give a kind of more dispassionate interpretation. But in the absence of that, I think the case will have to proceed to the Supreme Court, given the fact that it's a pre-election matter. It's not a post-election matter. If it were to be a post-election matter, there would have been timelines for the disposition, or it will have ended at the Court of Appeal, given the fact that local government elections petition starts from the tribunal and ends at the appellate court. But in this particular instance, the petition was filed at the Federal High Court in Osogbo in October 2022. So the Court of Appeal has given its own judgment. Now there are different interpretations from the APC and the PDP. As at this afternoon, it was reported that 14 out of the 30 local governments have been taken over by the APC. I don't know whether that will help their cause, because it's also have a chain reaction as to whether this next Saturday's election will hold or will not hold.
Indeed, there is the election to be considered, to be concerned about, but how significant is the Osun State House of Assembly's call for the president to actually intervene in this crisis?
Well, in the absence, the governor has come out to make his own plea on Sunday that the president should call his nephew to order. And I'm not surprised that the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, who is also a PDP member, has followed suit. But is it all the time we will be welcoming or inviting the president to wade into issue? Don't forget, the president himself is an interested party. I said the president is an interested party because he has family ties in Osun State. That's number one. Aside from that, it's also his party, APC, that is trying to take over. So if the president wades in and asks APC loyalists to go and take over, would the PDP be happy about that? So we need to be very careful when we say president should wade in, president should wade in. I think maybe there should be a stay of execution by either of the two parties, and then there should be an appeal to Supreme Court. And when the Supreme Court gives a final verdict, it will not be bound by all the parties. Even if next Saturday's election holds, the Supreme Court can still decide and say the tenure of those who are elected in 2022 has not expired, and that they can resume and have their full term. And that's what happened in Anambra State way back in 2006, when Peter Obi's tenure has not lapsed, and INEC held another election and saw in Senator Uba, I've forgotten his first name, and the court said no, there should not be another election. Peter Obi, go back and complete your tenure. You have 4-year tenure. So that could still apply, irrespective of whether there is another election on Saturday or not. But I think it's better to wait on the court to give the final verdict on this matter.
So, Mr. Ojo, the security agencies have been accused of being inactive. What do you think they can do? What role should they play here in resolving this conflict?
My brother, the truth is, the security agents need to tread very carefully when they are handling political issues. Look at how that of, say, DSS in Lagos has found out with accusation by the same assembly that invited them, accusing them that they overreached themselves. And that is why, irrespective of how security agencies handle the situation, there will always be allegation of bias in favor or against, because there are two fielding political parties. And yes, I believe that those who said maybe the police should have been more proactive and take over the assembly, maybe that would have prevented the arson and the murder of the 6 innocent souls on Monday. But recall what happened in Port Harcourt or in Rivers sometime last year, when initially the police sealed up all the local government, and at some point they were asked to vacate. And what did we see? About 4 local governments were set ablaze by loyalists of one of the parties. So politicians being who they are, you need to tread very carefully if you don't want to lose your job or get suspended or even get posted, punitive posting. So they have to be very professional. I'm not saying that they should have abandoned the secretariat, but I will only encourage them to be very fair and to be proactive and to be dispassionate and to be unbiased.
So how do you think the unrest impacts governance of Osun State as it is currently, or maybe even in the long term?
How do I do what?
How do you think the unrest, the political unrest, affects governance of Osun State now and in the long term?
Now, this is an interesting question to ask because it impacts on governance. Look at lives that have been lost in the course of this week, property that has been destroyed, and the state of fear that has been created. I tell you for free, many hospitality businesses in Osun State will have been impacted negatively this week because of the scare that there could be full-blown political war in Osun. Aside from that, the tension in the state, if not properly handled, can also lead to further loss of, property, and that would be an economic loss in itself. But above all, we need to situate this Osun crisis the way it is. This is what I waded in my column in the Punch of today. This may not even be resolved altogether in the course of this year because there is a larger motive why both APC and PDP wants to have control of the local government in Osun, and that is the 2026 governorship election. The two parties want to be in control of this grassroots institution, the local government, ahead of 2026 governorship election, when it is expected that there will be a rematch between the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, former governor, that's Gbóyèga Oyètọ́lá, and the incumbent Ademola Adeleke, both of whom will be slugging it out, most likely slugging it out for their second and final term in office. But how we handle, how the security agencies and the political leaders of the state and the federal government handle this will determine whether the lead up to that governorship election itself will be very peaceful and will not impact negatively on governance. Because what the two fielding parties are trying to do now is to demarcate themselves as best as they can. There are those, the APC people are dropping the name of the president. They are boasting that they can do anything and nothing will happen. The PDP is also crying foul that, oh, these people are trying to use the federal might against us. And that is what is creating the atmosphere of tension and uncertainty. And when you have tension and uncertainty, businesses will be impacted because people will be afraid to venture into such an environment for fear of being caught in a crossfire. And so it is in the best interest of the good people of Osun State to put their house in order to allow reason to prevail. Power is transient, even if any of the feuding party is in control of the entire local government structure. That still does not mean that their party cannot lose in an election afterwards. We have seen that happen, political upsets, what is very common in Nigeria. So they should not disturb the peace of the people, the peace of the state, because it has a way of impacting negatively on the ecosystem, on the businesses, small, micro, small, and business and medium enterprises will be impacted negatively. Even the shutting down of the local government at the behest of the governor is already impacting negatively on the business of governance in that state.
Okay, then.
Because it means that the local government structure in Osun State,
all right,
in the 30 local government is already paralyzed.
Okay, then.
And that has impacted negatively on business of governance at the top tier level.
Well, Mr. Jide, I want to say thank you very much. Your contributions are well noted. We'll be coming back to you for more on this and maybe even other matters. Thank you once again.
My pleasure. Keep safe and stay blessed.
Will do. Now the news continues in West Africa, where the Republic of Niger has barred Nigerians traveling with ECOWAS passports from entering the country following its recent withdrawal from the regional bloc. While Niger's borders with Nigeria remains open, new immigration restrictions are being enforced at key crossings, including Ilela in Nigeria and Koni in Niger. Cross-border traders and commuters now face major challenges as Nigerian authorities no longer recognize the ECOWAS, or rather Nigerian authorities no longer recognize the ECOWAS passport as a valid travel document. Although there has been no official statements from Niger's government, affected travelers fear the situation could worsen, further disrupting trade and movement. Still ahead, President Zelensky demands security guarantees to end war. There's much more coming up after the break. Join us then. Welcome back. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is pushing for solid security guarantees from Western allies, aiming to end a war with Russia by 2025. Speaking in Kiev, Zelensky stressed the urgency of securing these guarantees this year, citing Ukraine's determination to bring the conflict to an end. His remarks follow recent talks in Saudi Arabia between the U.S. and Russian foreign ministers, talks that notably excluded Ukraine. Kiev has voiced concerns over being sidelined in key diplomatic discussions, warning that any negotiations without Ukraine's direct involvement could undermine its sovereignty. Now, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has praised U.S. President Donald Trump for blaming the Ukraine conflict on the previous administration's push to admit Kiev into NATO. Trump has repeatedly criticized Joe Biden's administration for supporting Kiev's bid to join NATO, a move Russia cites as a key reason for its invasion. Lavrov's comments follow high-level U.S.-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia, their first in over 3 years. Trump's stance has drawn criticism, with some accusing him of aligning too closely with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Он первый, да и пока, по-моему, единственный из западных лидеров.
And now for more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. So please, if you tell us what the latest is on the United States talks with Russia, please.
Well, yes, we had President Trump giving a press conference at Mar-a-Lago yesterday where he gave us the top lines from the press conference. And the ones that really have stuck out are, firstly, that he seemed to blame Ukraine for the war in its own country when, we know that Russia invaded the Ukraine, not the other way around. Also implied that this war would not have started if he had been president. He said that quite a few times as well. He said, you should never have started it and we should have made a deal, referring to the Ukraine. He said that he is disappointed that Ukraine are upset that they didn't have a seat at the table. And he also said that there had been elections in the Ukraine and those should take place as soon as possible.
And what has been the reaction to these talks, especially the fact that neither Europe nor the Ukraine were at the table?
Well, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, has been giving a press conference himself, one that he looked very upset and agitated at, to be honest. And basically, he said that Trump is trapped in a disinformation bubble. Trump has also said that Zelensky's approval rating is at 4%, and that figure has actually come from Russian disinformation online. And actually, if you do the research, you can find out that Zelensky's approval rating is at 52%, or around 50 to 52%, which is just about the same as President Trump's approval rating at the moment. So Zelensky, understandably, very upset that, first of all, Ukraine didn't have a seat at the table in those negotiations, and that, second of all, Trump is parroting misinformation, especially about the fact that Ukraine started the war. And of course, Europe, who seem to sort of just be taken by surprise and on a back foot at anything that Trump does in relation to the Ukraine and Russia, stepping up demands that there should be a European force, an armed force that potentially could be put into Ukraine, a peacekeeping force, as it were, and a lot of murmurings that perhaps it seems like Trump is siding now with Russia, has gone over to that side, and contemplating what that could mean for the Ukraine-Russia war.
So what could these talks mean for the war then? Are they going to be effective in any way, and the entire region?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the 3-year anniversary of the beginning of this phase of the Russia-Ukraine war. Remember, there was an annexation of Crimea that started in 2014, but the 3-year anniversary of this particular phase of the war falls on Monday. And, President Trump is really vying for a Nobel Peace Prize to try and be the deal maker that ends the war, that brings peace to the region. But now it seems we have a situation where the U.S. is siding with Russia. Ukraine doesn't seem to have a seat at the table in these particular peace talks, and there cannot be any peace in Ukraine without Ukraine discussing their own future. So at the moment, it seems like a peace deal is far away when you have Zelensky at odds with Russia, and also now at odds with the United States, and you have Europe on the side of Zelensky as well. Unless all parties can come to the table, no ceasefire deal can really be reached.
All right, then. Afia, I want to say thank you very much once again, and have a good rest of the afternoon. Thank you. And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the top major stories that we brought your way. Senate to interrogate security chiefs following U.S. Congressman's accusations of USAID funding Boko Haram. And Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, condemns governors for illegal council takeovers. And we also told you that Niger Republic has rejected ECOWAS passport and barred Nigerians from entry. Do remember you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Evo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.